Let's move on now to the Indianapolis Colts in our training camp preview series, where we will break down the top stories heading into the training camp for the Indianapolis Colts and all the other teams in the NFL. But before we get into that, if you have not already, hit the subscribe button and also ring the bell to get notified when we create new content. Ryan and I, as I said, are doing an entire training camp preview series, and we have a bunch of other videos planned throughout the rest of the offseason, including the preseason, and also weekly prediction videos throughout the entire regular season, which includes all of the Colts games. So if you want to get notified when those videos come out, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. It's the easiest way to get notified. And Ryan, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
This one, I think, just right off the bat, top story going into training camp, Anthony Richardson. And just overall development. He, out of all the quarterbacks that got drafted, especially the ones who are probably going to start, which I am in the camp that I think he should start. I agree with, I believe it's Jim Irsay as what we talked about, or what you told me off air. But best way to get better is to play, and especially him with his talent. I feel like the kind of writings on the wall and on the overall expectations is like, hey, we suck this year. Like, we're not going to be good this year. Like, we should be really good, but we have just postponed getting our franchise quarterback for so long that now it's like, let's just completely tear it down. So the expectations are extremely low compared to last year. So him going out and his development and just seeing how he improves, and also then to the relationship building with the receivers, I think is going to be crucial. I know you have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, and I'll start with kind of Jim Irsay's comments on Anthony Richardson, and I agree. I mean, I think with the way that Shane Steichen can set up an offense, right? He set up that offense in Philadelphia for Jalen Hurts to come in and learn and develop and just be as solid as he has become, right? And he had a really solid Super Bowl, like just all around solid quarterback. And I think with Anthony Richardson, I think he can do that in a very similar way, right? Like first year that Jalen Hurts was starting, that offense was so simple, right? Like they're running bootlegs, like options, RPOs, right? Like nothing where like Anthony Richardson is really going to have to take like a 7-step drop and really like, okay, well, that safety rotated into a cover 3. Yeah. Like
nothing that they didn't do in college.
Yeah, exactly. And then going on to the wide receivers, Alec Pierce is coming into his second year. I think that's going to be really interesting to watch him kind of learn and develop. Michael Pittman is going into a contract year. So that'll be interesting to see what he does, what he's able to do. Is he going to earn himself some money? I know some people, he had a little bit of a lackluster year in his third season after a pretty successful sophomore campaign. But the one to me that's really interesting, and this may be just maybe a cool story, but you immediately heard at rookie minicamp, as soon as Josh Downs and Anthony Richardson showed up, it was like 10 p.m. and they went out and started throwing footballs, and were like, he was running routes, talking about the playbook, and like they're just going through things together. And that to me, I think is something that is really cool to hear. Two guys, same draft class, they show up and like literally a few hours after getting off a plane, get to work and start going at it. So I love to hear that. I would love to see in this offseason or training camp, Anthony Richardson develop some rapport with some of these wide receivers, because not only like will that benefit him, but I just think for this offense as a whole, they need some continuity, some chemistry, because last year they were all so out of sync on so many different levels that they need to just get back to having fun and playing football. So
I agree completely. This team last year, they really lost the locker room, or really lost the locker room. And then you bring Matt Ryan in and hoping for lightning in a bottle, which I think we all thought we could, because you saw what he was doing in Atlanta, like on paper, a worse team on paper by far. And so you thought that there'd be some hope, but then Jonathan Taylor got hurt, offensive line was getting hurt, then Matt Ryan wasn't performing as well, then whoever was back there wasn't performing nearly as well. So it was just a real kind of bummer of a year for Colts fans. And so it's neat to, especially like this is a fun time. It's going to be tough at first, but it's a fun time to kind of see the overall development of a young team. You know, there's a lot of young talent that's on this team, especially too, like the receivers and quarterback that we've already mentioned. Jonathan Taylor is still in his prime as well. He's still one of the top running backs in the league. Hopefully they can improve on the offensive line side of the ball as well. Yeah. And even on the defensive side of the ball as well. Like we saw some veteran pieces go, like Stephon Gilmore, and then also not DeForest Buckner, who was the They lost someone else on that.
Unique Ngakoue.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so you see some of these veteran pieces go, but then there's some young talent that they can come in. And on paper, this team's still really good. If they can stay healthy and get some things right, that's going to be hard to watch.
That to me is what was so frustrating for Colts fans last year was this offensive line on paper should have been really good, right? I think they had 4 Pro Bowlers and then Bernard Raymond, the rookie left tackle. And I know the left tackle is a pretty important position, but they underperformed so much. Like Quentin Nelson had a career worst year. They didn't run the ball well at all. And to me, I think they just need to get back. Shane Steichen needs to come in there, win this locker room over, and get these offensive linemen to come in and play hard like they did a couple seasons ago for Frank Reich. And because that is just so like Quentin Nelson, best left guard in the league. I believe Ryan Kelly is still their center. Like they still have really talented offensive linemen, and for them to play like that was just abysmal, right? Like they just didn't try or didn't care.
Yeah, and I think it's something to be said too. Because now it is like Anthony Richardson, he's got I guess we don't know if he's got the ball, but you know that there's at least going to be some consistency of who will eventually be getting the ball. So you know that there's going to be development because that's the goal. But it's got to be tough too having a different quarterback every single year for an organization, and like you work with Phillip Rivers because he's a veteran quarterback, but also at the same time too, that team also they really just kind of one way of playing, which is very game management. And then they just kind of kept doing that, it seemed like, every single year.
Yeah.
Just because a quarterback couldn't just master the offensive scheming and the offensive system. So with Shane Steichen, in your example earlier with Jalen Hurts, I think was perfect. And they'll be able to work that way up with Anthony Richardson. Maybe start really simple at first, keep bootlegs, RPOs, things that he's used to and comfortable with, and then slowly implement NFL-type style plays and throws. As he develops.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things too, as concepts get more complex in terms of like routes and offensive plays, you also have a different protection package depending on like the defensive front. And when you're dealing with a heavy rotation of quarterbacks, right, those protection packages that they adjust at the line get limited to like you have like one of 3 options basically, just to keep it simple for the incoming quarterback. And so that sometimes doesn't set up the offensive line in the best of scenarios. Whereas like, I think Josh McDaniels probably runs one of the most complex offensive line adjustment schemes. And like the Raiders offensive line was pretty good last year. Like, and they don't really have a whole lot of like uber solid talent. Right. So that to me, I think just as they play more together, as the offensive scheme kind of fills out what everybody does best, that will get better. So but let's go ahead and wrap up the Colts training camp preview there. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe, and go ahead and leave a comment down below on what you think the Colts are going to do in 2023. Do you think they're going to be good? Do you think they're going to be bad? Do you think Anthony Richardson will progress from bad to good throughout the entire year? Let us know down below. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.